It's a Wednesday edition of Locked On Grizzlies, and I wish I had better news for you, but Jaren Jackson Jr. out for the foreseeable future, week to week with an ankle sprain. Damichael Cole and I are going to talk about that, plus try to be a little bit sunshiny on this episode. The amazing Tony Allen documentary made its debut. Our Damichael Cole was there. He'll give us some insight before it debuts. And Memphis has to play the Oklahoma City Thunder in their first game in a long time without Jaren. I'm sure it's going to go great. Let's lock in.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is our Wednesday edition of Locked On Grizzlies. Thank you so much for being with us on this episode of the show. My name is Joe Mullinax. I am one of your hosts, joined by my co-host, Damichael Cole of the Commercial Appeal there in Memphis, Tennessee. He is an award-winning Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for that publication. I do some contributions over at Grizzlied. I also man our everyday newsletter, lockedondaily.com. Go and subscribe if you haven't already done so to our free daily newsletter. I write it each and every time that it drops. Make sure that you're checking that out. Again, lockedondaily.com. Between the two of us, you've come to the right place for Memphis Grizzlies coverage. Make sure you're liking, commenting, rating, reviewing, subscribing wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. We are everywhere you get a podcast. Make sure that you are becoming an everydayer if you are not already one. If you are an everydayer, thank you so much for being a part of our little corner of the internet we like to call Locked On Grizzlies. To Michael Cole, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to my solo episode yesterday. I was not a happy camper. And I continue to not feel super positive about the state of things. And nostalgia is going to wash over me in about 10 minutes or so. So if you could stick with us, if you can bear with me, Damichael's going to say all heart, grit, grind, and I'm going to get the goosebumps like The Rock does, and they start slapping my arm. But the big thing that obviously is the main story going into tonight's game with the Thunder. I think it's the first time in 59 games, an Iron Man stretch for Jaren Jackson Jr. It'll be the first time in a long time, regardless of exactly how many games it was, that Jaren Jackson Jr. will not be in the lineup. He is out due to an ankle injury. The Grizzlies announced that it is a week-to-week situation. He needs to play, I believe, at least 6 more games to qualify for all of the postseason awards, all those sorts of things. So you can give us a little more clarity on that, I'm sure. But more so than all NBA and all that stuff that matters to Jaren, of course, and it should matter to the Grizzlies. We've talked about that for contractual reasons. Yeah. In the here and now, arguably the best team in the NBA, certainly the best team in the Western Conference, is in town. You're closing out a disastrous homestand that John Morant may not be available for. We'll talk more about that later. Jaren Jackson Jr. will not be available for it. How in the world does Memphis win, not just tonight? Let's say tonight they're not going to win, right? How do they win moving forward in games that they need to win to keep pace in the loaded top half of the Western Conference without their best player this season in Jaren Jackson Jr.?
It's going to be, I hate to put pressure on one player in particular, but Santi Aldama, this is going to be his chance to really kind of display himself, one, for the league as a upcoming restricted free agency here, and then 2, for the Grizzlies, in order to say, hey, I deserve to be here, a part of this long-term core. This is his opportunity. Santi's had a phenomenal season, right? Over 12 points per game. The passing has been great. Like, he just had a game of a double-digit assist. He's also had games, where he's had 14, 15 rebounds in different games. So he's done a little bit of everything. But look, you can't replicate Jaren's defense. You can't. But what you can do is you can compete hard on the defensive end, which is something the Grizzlies, the intensity has been up and down on the defensive end for them. You can compete on that end, and you can shoot the three-point ball at a high level, which Santi's done, and you can help this offense continue to play, at a strong level. Look, the rotation is probably going to have to be shorter. That's probably something that I think Taylor Jenkins is going to have to do that he probably hasn't done much of. Look, don't try to just go, oh, okay, we're going to put Santi in the starting lineup and keep him at 28 minutes and bring another guy in off the bench, and that guy's going to play the 23, 24 minutes that Santi used to play. No, you ramp up Santi's minutes. He gets a bigger role in this case. He's a guy that has had a strong season. He is, to me, someone who's going to have to step up and fill in. Again, he's not Jaren, but we've seen this picture before. You remember it was a couple seasons ago where Jaren missed the beginning of the season, recovering from that foot injury in the offseason. And what we saw was a young Santi Aldama, right? He wasn't even penciled into the starter, at the beginning of that season. He earned his way into that role and played decently well. And he's a better player now. Look, defensively, you're going to lose something here. I think that is, you accept that part of it. Now it's a challenge for Desmond Bane to be a better perimeter on-ball defender. John Morant's going to have to compete on that end. All the other guys, Vince Williams, as he continues to round into, full health here, he's going to have to get better on the defensive end. All those guys are going to do their job just that much better because you don't have Jaren to erase mistakes of the perimeter guys as he once did. You're still going to have Zach Edey in stretches, but it's a huge loss. No way around it, Joe. It's a loss that comes at an unideal time. You're kind of struggling right now, and you need all those guys all those guys back to get this going in the right direction. But hopefully Santi Aldama, if he's healthy enough to play in this game and going forward, can be that guy for the Grizzlies to help them kind of, right the ship a little bit without Jaren.
I would not play Santi in this game, and we'll preview the game later on. I'll go more down that road later on in the show. You know who I would play a ton in this game is Gigi Jackson. I would play him a ton because you and I have talked in the past how we envision, right, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, the best position for Gigi Jackson where he can maximize his value and his skill set is the 4. So this is an opportunity, especially in tonight's game, which I'll talk more about here in a little bit, but especially moving forward where Gigi Jackson can get reps in this position, right? Playing next to Zach Edey, playing next to Brandon Clark, giving different looks, getting some of that mismatch, because you're not going to replace Jaren Jackson Jr. He's 6'11", 245 pounds, unless Giannis all of a sudden walks in and magically becomes a member of the Memphis Grizzlies, who is better than Jaren, but not by much anymore, then you're not going to be able to replace that guy. It's just not possible, okay? So when you look at what Memphis can do, it should most certainly involve Gigi Jackson. It should most certainly involve playing small and being switchable. Taylor Jenkins is not a guy to adapt. We've talked about this, at least in game. He's not the best adapter. Offseason, changing offensive schemes, staff adjustments, we've seen some change, but we don't see it in season enough, and this should be a window for that.
Yeah. I got a question for you.
Please.
I wanted to make sure I asked you before. I didn't know if you were going to go off into a different point as well. But you mentioned Gigi Jackson, right? And we haven't talked a lot about Gigi as of late because if you notice, his minutes have been really fluctuating, right? It's strange in a way because you see in this last game when Jaren gets hurt and Santi's already out, Gigi Jackson goes into the game. But the game before that, when the Grizzlies needed another starter, it was John Conchar who got the start.
Which was complete and total nonsense.
So it's like, oh, is he in front of John Conchar? Is he behind him? However, the point that I'm making is, do you feel like the Grizzlies trust Gigi Jackson enough in that role? And
no.
So how does he take advantage of this? Because here's where I stand, and then I'll let you. Here's where I stand. I think that Gigi Jackson, they're giving him this. They want him to be this guy, right? This 3-and-D guy who's going to eventually get more of those on-ball opportunities. He calls it the Desmond Bane, a package or something like that, where Desmond Bane came in as a 3-and-D guy and eventually worked his way up into more of a playmaker. I do think this could be a pivotal stretch here for Gigi as well. I think early on he'll get those opportunities, but I don't know if he'll get as much leeway, I guess is the word, because does he deserve it? That's up for debate. But I don't know if the Grizzlies are going to do that for him. I don't know if they're going to trust him to say, here's 20 minutes for you, in this game. I think it might be 7-8 minutes, like we've seen in some recent games, right? There was a couple games ago, he played 4 minutes, and it was like he went in, he played a little role. All right, Gigi, thank you for your participation and your cooperation in this game at that point. So I think he is if you want to say, is a sneaky player to watch during this stretch. This could be a stretch where we look back on it and say, oh, that's something that Gigi really took advantage of. Or it could be the opposite, where we say, man, if the Grizzlies didn't give Gigi much of an opportunity, then what's the plan for him right now?
If John Conchar plays more minutes than GG Jackson at the 4, I am going to lose my mind. If you thought Chris Vernon lost his mind on the grind on his show on Grind
I
City
saw
Media
that.
earlier this week, if you thought that was an epic rant, you have no idea what is going to happen. I'm going to create curse words if GG Jackson is somehow playing less than John Conchar. I am going to do what our boss over at Locked On Mavs, Nick, did at the start of his podcast this week, and I'm going to have a bottle of the most expensive liquor in my house, and I'm going to drink the entire thing in a 30-minute podcast if John Conchar plays more than GG Jackson. It's completely and totally absurd. We know what John Conchar is. Don't you dare put that guy out there in front of GG Jackson. It's nonsense. It makes no sense. You're the 28th ranked defense, the 28th ranked defense the last 2 weeks.
That's bad.
With Jaren Jackson Jr. on the floor. What the hell is it going to be now? It's unbelievable to me. You have a 21, not even 21,
20,
a 20-year-old,
my guy can't buy his own drink here.
6'9", 225-pound wing on your team, Taylor Jenkins. Play the kid. You have no excuse at this point. Who else are you going to play? Jay Huff? You're going to call him up? You're going to have Lamar Stevens go out there for the last 7 days of his second 10-day contract and take minutes away from someone that's supposed to be a piece of your future? It's nonsense. It's nonsense. Absolutely ridiculous. Let us know on YouTube, on social media. How do you think the team's going to do without Jaren? Spoiler alert, I'm doing just fine. If you haven't noticed,
you can see it in his eyes if you're watching on YouTube. He's doing.
I tell you what,
he's doing great.
Husa.
There you go.
When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, Damichael's going to bring me back down to earth because he got to see, as other very wonderful and important people got to see, the premiere of the Tony Allen documentary. TA gets his jersey retired next week. Another thing to be excited about. I'm going to be there in Memphis to see it. It's going to be a blast hanging out with my buddy Damichael Cole. He's going to make sure that I don't scream at Taylor Jenkins about GG Jackson. It's going to be great. Okay. We're going to talk about the TA documentary coming up next. Stick around. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by the good folks over at OpenPhone. I love OpenPhone, and you should too. They do a tremendous job making business easier for small businesses because running one of those means that you're wearing a lot of hats. Your personal phone becomes your business phone, and before you know it, you're juggling customer calls day and night. That's where OpenPhone comes in. As your business grows, it's the #1 phone system designed to help you keep your work and personal life separate. For $15 a month, the cost of a few coffees, you can get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business phone number. OpenPhone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you'll have a rundown of your calls and action items the second that you hang up. And if you miss a call, that's not a problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your customer, ensuring that you never miss an opportunity to engage. Right now, OpenPhone is offering 20% off your first 6 months when you go to openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's OPENPHONE.com/lockedonnba for 20% off 6 months. Openphone.com/lockedonnba. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. Give them a check out today. All right, Damichael Cole, you, again, were fortunate enough, and I mean that you deserve to be there, obviously, a wonderful opportunity to go and check out the Tony Allen documentary. I am so excited to watch this here in the next couple of days. It's a beautiful story. If you know anything about TA's background, everything that he's been through, obviously some recent struggles as well. It was a who's who of the Memphis Grizzliati, so to speak, that was there for TA's documentary debut. And I know that you were a part of that, of course, partner. So what are some things that you can let our wonderful folks here with us at Locked On Grizzlies know about this documentary that comes out the next day or so?
Yeah, man, it was beautiful. Joe, it was beautiful. You're gonna love it, Joe. Keep your tissue beside you, Joe.
I need that.
It's just gonna bring that nostalgia for I mean, you're gonna see the grind. You're gonna see the grind house. You're gonna see it packed. You're gonna see the fans going wild. But that wasn't to me the best part of it. And the best part of it to me was not only did you get the full story, but you got the good, you got the bad, you got the pretty, you got the ugly. and you got the right people to kind of paint the picture there. It was well put together by Mike Blevins, and his team. Shout out to Mike Blevins. They did terrific work. I mean, so many highlights stand out from it. You talk about they really hit home on his upbringing, right? They went to back to in Chicago to where Tony Allen grew up, right? And they talked about his different stops, and the different stops in high school. Certain people that he kind of latched on to over the course of his life, and you realize, like, man, it's so many different twists and turns over the course of his life where a person pulled him in this direction, and it was just the next step and the next step and the next step that really helped him to get to where he was going. You talk about, I mean, like Will Bynum, him going to school with him in Chicago, and that kind of, he's talking about how Will really helped him, show him, how to be recruited and things like that. And then Jawan Howard being from the same, neighborhood that he was from. And then you go all the way into the next level of it, right? He gets to college and finally gets at Oklahoma State, makes a name for himself there, goes to the NBA. And the voices in the story it's phenomenal. I mean, the documentary is great work. You're going to see Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard, Steph Curry, Chris Paul, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett. I think they did a wonderful job kind of telling the story of kind of the pool it was in the situation where the Celtics wanted to keep him and the Grizzlies wanted him, and that whole situation. You had Chris Wallace, he was a voice in there as well. So a lot of great voices, a lot of behind the scenes things. But Joe, what you might like, as I was watching it, I was trying to determine if you're going to like this much or not. But they really did. When they talked about his Grizzlies tenure, they really hit on a bunch of different key moments. They hit, of course, all heart, all grind. He took us behind the scenes of preparing for that game. It's a real cool story. Everybody's going to love that. But one of the biggest points that they hit on during his Grizzlies career was that series in 2015 against the Golden State Warriors. Joe, I mean, I don't know how you're going to feel watching that one, because he talks about it. I mean, you see them go up 2-1 in the series. Tony Allen talks about a hamstring injury, pulling his hammy in that series, how it changed the series. It's a lot. It's a lot of stuff in there. You can kind of really feel it. But you even had Klay Thompson, Klay Thompson, which I think Tony Allen said was the most surprising voice that he saw in the documentary when we talked to him after the fact. But it was an awesome documentary. I think it premieres Thursday for everyone who wants to check it out on YouTube, the Grizzlies. So, I mean, I think Zach Randolph said he had tears in his eyes. Tony Allen, I saw him have tears in his eyes. Well put together film that really hit on, like I said, it was the good, the bad. It was growing up in the projects, right? It was all the things that he got in trouble for, including after his career. The healthcare fraud scam thing was in there as well. And I mean, just one really touching moment. I really can't wait for many of you to see it. Was Tony Allen talked about being in that courtroom, and he said he looked back, and it wasn't, everybody wasn't in there, but you'd be surprised. You know who was in there? Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose was in there, and this was in New York. And he talked about it after the fact, and Tony Allen, I mean, he got emotional. So that's his brother for life. And if you know about Tony Allen and Derrick Rose, they both have that Chicago background, and they're really tied together in Memphis now. Like, they do a lot together, their families as well.
That's really cool. I can close my eyes and I can be back in 2012, 2013, and Futures Go Harder hits. And you have 18,000 people waving growl towels, and they zoom in on Tony Allen's head, and he's bobbing his head along to this song. He loved Future, and it gives me chills thinking about being in that moment. I talk all the time about how the most organic thing I've ever been a part of in my life, covering, watching, being a fan of sports, is the Memphis Grizzlies grit and grind era. It was just real. and you had to be there to feel it, to experience it. If you were in that space, regardless of your age, right? Like you could have been a little kid back then, and those are your first memories. You know, an adult like me, young adult coming into a city and making a connection in such a way. You know, I'll never forget the way that felt, and how a player as flawed as Tony Allen, he had plenty of problems, how he could be a guy who has his number retired in a franchise and it make complete and total sense. And I don't give a damn what anybody outside of Memphis thinks about it. If they think it's ridiculous, they don't get it. And I genuinely, I don't mean that like in an insulting way. Like they just weren't there. They weren't there. They didn't experience it. So they're not going to know. If all you do is look at Tony Allen's numbers, he absolutely doesn't deserve his number retired.
Yeah.
But you had to experience grit and grind to know exactly why his number is being retired and exactly why he deserves it. And I am excited to be there to witness it firsthand. It's going to be wonderful next Saturday. And I'm also excited to watch the documentary when it drops here in the next day or so. Thank you so much to Michael for that preview. Looking forward to checking it out. And when we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, we're going to preview what will likely be a bludgeoning between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Maybe Damichael can make me feel a little bit more optimistic about it, but I'm not feeling great. And I'll explain why when we come back. Make sure you stick around. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp does a tremendous job providing so many opportunities for folks to figure out what their support system is. We all need people to lean on, whether it's friends, family, mentors, or professionals. Even the strongest leaders and athletes know that asking for help makes them better. Therapy is one of the best ways to build a strong support system. It's not just for tough times. It helps with setting boundaries, developing coping skills, and becoming the best version of yourself. I have seen firsthand how valuable it is to have a support system that keeps you grounded and motivated. BetterHelp is fully online, making it easier than ever to connect with a licensed therapist from anywhere. With over 30,000 professionals available, you can find the right fit and switch anytime at no extra cost. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Go check out BetterHelp today. All right, Damichael, I, at Joe Mullinax, not ironically at all, posted, "We are so back" on my social media page. And I was quote tweeting.
You were so excited when you
I was quote tweeting the injury report for Grizzlies Thunder on March 5th. Very sarcastic. Whoever runs the Grizzlies PR account, I'm sorry. I apologize in advance. If I can figure out who you are, I will apologize to you in person next weekend. Questionable. Santi Aldama, right calf soreness.
Yep.
Right knee soreness for John Conchar. Thank God. I hope he doesn't play. John Morant, right deltoid contusion. I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure that's shoulder bruise. Scottie Pippen Jr., left toe soreness. And then the guys that are out, Jaren Jackson Jr., and then 4 players that are either injured or are on G League assignments, two-way transfers, that sort of thing. I would not play any of these people. I would not play Scottie Pippen Jr. I would not play John Morant. I would not play John Conchar. I would not play Santi Aldama. I would play Desmond Bane 40 minutes. I would play Luke Kennard 36 to 38 minutes. I would say do the very best that you can. It's probably not going to go well. And Lamar Stevens should get some run at the end when Memphis is down by 20. Please, Damichael Cole, save me from the spiraling abyss that I am approaching, because I am spiraling so much that my mindset in this moment, talking to my good buddy Damichael Cole, is I would punt this game. I would just say it's been a disaster. You don't have Jaren. You may not have Ja. Do the best you can with what you got. You have a chance coming up this weekend to pick up a couple of wins. The team that is way worse off than you, the Dallas Mavericks, is coming up on Friday. You have an opportunity to right the ship down the road. It's extremely unlikely that it's the Oklahoma City Thunder. So if this is a bit of a surprise, I understand. I'm down pretty bad, partner. Maybe you can save me.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm down bad. I'm acknowledging that.
You're a football coach. Isn't the football saying it's any given Sunday? Isn't that what the football coaches always say?
Yeah, this is a Wednesday, though, and a Wednesday in the NBA against SGA, who just dropped a 50 burger. Not the most optimistic. Now, something that could save Memphis is maybe OKC looks at the Grizzlies and pities them and says, "This team stinks. Like we don't need to. We don't. They're not gonna do anything."
Have you seen their record against teams under 500?
They beat the absolute
yeah.
hoop
Good
out
luck.
of them. Yeah,
Good
I
luck
caught
with
myself
them.
there. This is a family-friendly show.
Yeah. Good luck with them pitying anyone.
They're not going to pity anybody.
It's going to be a tough test. It's going to be a tough test. I mean, we all know that. You've seen a couple of these games between Grizzlies and OKC, and they've just been the more physical team against Memphis, and they've just beaten them up both times. Now, with that being said, if you want to kind of try to look at this in a positive light in some type of way, you better. The only way I could really see the Grizzlies winning this game is if they have a great night shooting the basketball from 3-point range. And look, if Santi Aldama were to play, you said you're sitting him out, Joe. I understand your reasoning based on how you feel, but if Santi were to play, and then you got Desmond Bane in the starting lineup, we'll see if Ja plays or not. But potentially a Luke Kennard, him getting a lot of playing time as well. You have three guys who are pretty capable from beyond the arc. Now, Oklahoma City has done a terrific job at closing out on three-pointers while also protecting the paint against Memphis. We talked a lot about how they're the best team protecting the paint. So if Ja plays, this is going to be one of those games where we keep talking about the evolution of Ja's game, right? How it's going to be the best. What's the best version of him within this offense at the high pick and rolls and all that? At the end of the day, it's going to be against teams like this where he has to make shots. The Thunder now, especially with Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein both being kind of more in the picture, they don't let teams get a lot of paint production. They just don't. And you got to find ways to be effective. Take those transition opportunities, knock down some mid-range jumper, knock down some three-pointers. It's going to take some jump shots to beat OKC. And how are you going to do it? I mean, for Dallas to win that series last season, it took P.J. Washington having the series of his life. Who's going to be the Grizzlies' P.J. Washington, right? A guy that shot decently from three-point range over the course of his career and then just caught fire over the course of that series. Someone's got to catch fire for the Grizzlies to have a chance to win this game, Joe.
You know who has the skill set to catch fire? You know who has the skills to be able to do that to Michael Cole? Because I saw him do it on a much worse team, even than the one that might suit up for Memphis tonight. Gigi Jackson. This should be a Gigi Jackson game. It may not be a Gigi Jackson game because Taylor Jenkins seems to trust John Conchar more than Gigi Jackson, which is complete and utter nonsense. But this would be a time to allow your talented guy. There's no way that Memphis is favored to win this game. The Grizzlies are at home. This is the last game of a homestand for them. And I would be willing to bet, I'm going to pull it up real quick. I'd be willing to bet the Grizzlies are double-digit dogs to the Thunder because they may not have Ja and they don't have Jaren Jackson Jr. This game's on national television without those guys. OKC is only a 7.5-point favorite right now. That's wild. That's wild to me. How is that possible? Like they must have some inside information. They must think that Ja's going to play. I don't know what you've seen in recent days that would suggest that Ja Morant would play in this basketball game. But for me, I'm giving Gigi Jackson 36 minutes. I'm saying, go play, young bull. Let's see what you can do. Because this is a game that the Grizzlies were, if Jaren were healthy, if they were completely healthy, this would be a challenging basketball game. Memphis is not anywhere close to that right now. You have a chance later on in the week to right the ship. I would give these guys an extra day. It may look like conceding. It may seem like you're quitting. It is playing the long game. This is not football.
You sound like Taylor
16...
Jenkins right now. Oh, that's that Taylor Jenkins. That's
not a Taylor. Don't you dare say that's that Taylor Jenkins mentality.
It's a sprint to the finish line.
On me. Don't you put that evil on me.
You just stole the words out of his mouth.
But it's
playing the long game.
We're playing the long game tonight against the best team in the Western Conference. What else are they? You would suit up all those guys? Again, I know you like to think through.
If they want to play,
you would play Ja,
yes.
Santi,
yes.
John Conchar.
Yes.
I'm mad at you for wanting to play John Conchar. you would play all those dudes, Scottie Pippen Jr., against this team and just lose by 12 instead of losing by 22.
So you've lost 3 games in a row. I mean,
yeah,
I want to see heart. I want to see intensity. I don't want. Look, this is my perspective. I'm tired of seeing, guys in their nice little fancy outfits and
I'm with you on that.
And cheering on guys getting beat down on the floor. You want to see, I mean, okay, I'll go back to the documentary one more time. I think Chris Vernon was the one who said it when they did the panel afterwards. He said the thing about Memphis, and I'm paraphrasing his words here. He said that he was talking about the grit and grind era, and he said they'd rather see you go out there, put up a great fight, like give it your all, and lose than win a game soft.
Oh, I agree with that completely.
If Josh suits up and goes for 35 and Shai Gilgeous and OKC, like, look, they got more guys. They were better. You tip your cap. But this guy's sitting out, that guy's sitting out, and you just get run off the floor. Meaning it's too late in the season. You need that energy boost right now.
I agree with everything you just said. If that exists within the current state of the Memphis Grizzlies. and hey, I'll be there next week if people want to yell at me about it. I need to see it. If these dudes play and Ja does exactly what you just said and they lose by 2 to the Thunder wounded like this, then I'm 100% with you. I will give the guy his flowers. I'll give Santi Aldama his flowers. I'll tip my cap. I haven't seen it lately. Ja Morant has not played 6 consecutive games in 2 years. 2 years. And he might be legitimately injured. And I'm sorry that happened, and he needs to take care of his body. I respect all of those things. I'm telling you, man, the defense, half of it is about effort.
Yep.
They're 28th in the NBA the last 2 weeks defensively, according to Cleaning the Glass. That speaks for itself to me. I don't want to hear words. I want to see action. If they go out and do that, I agree with you 100%, but I need to see it. I haven't seen it lately. Thanks for hanging out with us on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. Damichael, as I mentioned a moment ago, the ESPN crew has bumped this game to the late game. And if you're an everydayer here at Locked On Grizzlies, I will be taking tomorrow's show off. Damichael will be solo. So give Damichael a little bit of grace because his partner is old and washed and is not helping him with this late game. Might be a little bit later than normal of a publishing, but you will have an episode on Thursday, hopefully talking about a Grizzlies win, and hopefully I'll listen and be in a better mood.
Yeah, hopefully so, Joe. I mean, again, I look at it like you want to go out on your shield.
Sure.
Don't go into this game, with a defeated mentality. Because I say that because the last few games have ended so poorly, right? You lost 3 consecutive games in heartbreaking fashion. Like, it'd be good just to see, the energy at least shift.
I would go out on my shield. I want to stress that. Like, people are going to say I'm soft in the comments. I would go out on my shield. That's what I would do. It's easy for me to say that as a fat old blogger, podcaster. I would go out on my shield. That is what I would do. Okay. I have you seen go out on your shield energy from anybody that isn't named Desmond Bane in the last couple of weeks? Maybe Luke Kennard, maybe. And the second name that came to my mind is Luke Kennard. I think we might have a larger problem here if people are picking up on it. And Jaren Jackson Jr. before he got hurt, of course. So I'm not seeing enough of it. That's my point. I'm not seeing enough of it. I'm not seeing it permeate. I'm not seeing it extend. I'm not seeing the contagious energy going through the organization right now for whatever reason. And maybe that's something we talk about later on this week. Hopefully I'm in a better mood the next time I see all of you wonderful folks. Make sure you're liking, commenting, rating, reviewing, subscribing wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Make sure you're subscribing to our Locked On Daily newsletter. It's free. Go to lockedondaily.com, click on the Grizzlies tab, and get Grizzlies words from me, NBA analysis, fantasy basketball advice, and so much more each and every newsletter, each and every time that it drops. Again, lockedondaily.com, and make sure you're subscribing not just to the podcast, but our newsletter as well. For Damichael Cole, I'm Joe Mullinax. I will catch you next time. I'm going to try to go for a walk. I'm going to try to go get some fresh air, try to not be so cranky the next time I see you. Hopefully, Damichael's talking about a win tomorrow.